Is the law on trial in Nigeria? Some legal practitioners think so. We have varied opinions to share. Also showing today the weekly recap of the top legal stories from the courts. And in our interview segment, we chat with Jonathan Akisoya, who was called to the Bar of England and Wales in 1993, and only last year he was called to the Nigerian Bar. In this interview, he shares with us his experience of how things work in both jurisdictions and what he thinks the Nigerian law school can do better. That's the lineup on Law Weekly today. I am Shola Shayeli. Welcome to the program. Reactions have not stopped trailing the recent increase in the price of fuel. There's no doubt that this will translate to increase in the cost of other goods and services. Some people think that with the myriad of challenges facing the country now, the indices of a failed state are becoming evident. Many others, however, remain hopeful that these challenges are birth pains of a better future. As with other areas of life, there are issues also with the legal profession in the country. Some legal practitioners say the law is on trial. Others disagree. Let's share with you the opinions of some lawyers.
The law is on trial because today you hardly can assert completely that the law of enforcement agencies, I mean the police, the civil defense, other law enforcement agencies, saddled the responsibility of enforcing law appropriately, including the EFCC, you cannot assert convincingly that they are doing their job of enforcement of the law the way they should. You also cannot assert that the lawyers who are supposed to also be ministers in the temple of justice are practicing law the way they should practice it. And the same way, you also cannot convincingly assert that all judges in the lands are credible. We are not saying that all of them are not credible, but you cannot say that all of them are credible. And now, when you now come to the situation of the country, you will see how much of problems we are facing in terms of, for instance, you have crisis right now in the north, Boko Haram, and it's transforming into Fulani headsmen, or maybe that one is evolving on its own. You also come to the south, you see the Niger Delta Avengers coming up as a relic of the old Niger Delta militants. And then you go to the east, you see the people clamoring for the independent state of Biafra. And now you go everywhere, you see this crisis, and you see the inability of the legal regime to curtail it. Today, you will see that courts give orders, people don't obey. You will see that arrests and detentions are completely out of the law. You will see that when governments make promises, they make those promises without taking into cognizance the law that put them in government. You see that the whole enterprise of governance is run parallel to the provisions of the law. And when you go back to check the fragile state index, what people call the failed state index, you see where Nigeria is. And that is to tell you that the law is at a brink.
The law is not on trial. Rather, it is the people that are on trial. We have fantastic laws that are aimed at remodeling the society. But it is the people, those who are implementing the law, that is actually on trial. Because if we take the Nigerian law to another Commonwealth jurisdiction or to European countries, the law will work perfectly well. But the functionality of the people, the corruption in the society is so endemic, and that is what is killing the country, and that is why the country is moving towards a failed state.
I can give you typical example of many laws that needed to be reformed, and then in the passage of legislations, in the areas of legislation by the National Assembly, I expect the National Assembly really, beside the fact that they have legal assistants, they should have lawyers that are in practice, that can make an input on the practical application of laws. Laws are not academic. You don't sit in the National Assembly and then you just pass laws. You have to see to the implementation of the law. Whereas if you do it and you keep it in the statute books, it will not change, the character and the attitudes, of the Nigerians that are always complex and that are always developing. So this is my take on it.
Interesting perspectives, but what do you think? Please feel free to share your thoughts with us via any of our social media platforms. Moving on now, let's do a recap of some of the top stories we're tracking in the courts.
We begin with the report that the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, has accused the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, of tampering with his asset declaration form, which he submitted in 2003 when he assumed office as governor of Kwara State. At the heart of the accusation is the ownership of a property allegedly bought by the Senate President from the federal government. Last week, Wednesday, at the Code of Conduct Tribunal, the EFCC's witness, Michael Wetkas, testified that the Senate President anticipatorily declared ownership of the property located on MacDonald Road in the Ikoyi area of Lagos. Lawyers to the Senate President, however, insist that the assets declaration form was doctored and the EFCC and the Code of Conduct Bureau refused to contact Dr. Saraki on the issue owing to the illegality. The EFCC has denied the allegation, insisting that the declaration of assets form was signed by the Senate President before a competent judge in 2003. The tribunal has adjourned to 17th May for the defense team to continue the cross-examination of the prosecution witness. At the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja, a cashier at the Nigerian Air Force headquarters, Emmanuel Abu, last week narrated the role he played in the alleged monthly diversion of 558.2 million naira from the Nigerian Air Force account by a former Chief of Defense Staff, Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade. In his testimony, the EFCC's second witness said the sum was a monthly leftover in the personnel and emolument account of the Nigerian Air Force after the payment of staff salaries and entitlements. The approval for the diversion, the witness says, was given by the financial officer at the headquarters of the Nigerian Air Force Camp, Mogadishu Cantonment, Asokoro, Abuja, Group Captain Mohammed Lawani Sini, who had communicated to him that there was a verbal standing instruction for the conversion of the funds into dollars, after which there was further instructions to transfer the funds to certain accounts. The EFCC is prosecuting the former defense chief alongside a firm, Iyalikam Nigeria Limited, on 10 counts of money laundering, bordering on alleged fraudulent diversion of about 3.97 billion naira from the Nigerian Air Force account. The anti-graft agency accused the former Chief of Defense Staff of using the funds to buy and develop landed assets in Abuja for himself and two of his sons between January and December 2013. Staying with corruption charges, a former Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Mohammed Umar, was last week arraigned before a federal high court in Abuja on allegations of diverting and laundering 4,846,630,000 naira. The EFCC says the funds belong to the Nigerian Air Force. Air Marshal Umar, who was arraigned on a 7-count charge, pleaded not guilty. His lawyer, Hassan Liman, subsequently moved the application for his bail. The prosecuting counsel, Silvanus Tahir, did not object. Justice Binta Murtalan Yako, in a short ruling, admitted the former air chief to bail on self-recognizance. The judge also ordered him to deposit his international passport with the court. He is also not permitted to travel outside the jurisdiction of the court without permission. The court then fixed the 7th, 8th and 9th of June for trial. And here in Lagos, the first prosecution witness, Babatunde Adenikon, has testified before Justice Babs Kilmi of the Federal High Court in the trial against the MD of the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency and 6 others. The witness, a compliance officer with Stanbic IBTC, claims that 263.4 million naira was paid in 4 tranches into the bank account of a contractor, Delosa Limited, after which it was transferred also in several tranches into bank accounts belonging to some officials of NAMA. The managing director of NAMA, Ibrahim Abdul Salam, is being prosecuted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for an alleged fraud of 2.8 billion naira between August 2013 and January 2016. And we round up with the report that the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has fixed June the 13th for the trial of a prominent Lagos-based lawyer, Ebunolu Adegborua, before a Federal High Court in Lagos for illegally dealing in a landed property. The property is said to be under an interim for future order by Justice Christopher Balogun of the Lagos State High Court. Mr. Adegborua pleaded not guilty to the 1-count charge, and his lawyer, Emeka Etiaba, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, asked the court to grant him bail on self-recognizance. The lawyer assured the presiding judge, Justice Oluremi Oguntoyibo, that his client would neither jump bail nor interfere with the prosecution's witnesses. In proof of the application, Mr. Etiaba also told the court that Mr. Adegborua is a parish pastor of the Redeemed Christian Church, Lekki Branch, who also fights for the downtrodden. In his ruling on the application, Justice Oguntoyibo admitted that he was reluctant to grant Mr. Adegborua bail on self-recognizance. Instead, the judge granted him bail in the sum of 10 million naira with 2 sureties in like sum. Before the bail conditions were perfected, Justice Oguntoyibo ordered that Mr. Adegborua be remanded in the custody of the EFCC.